Hello,
Okay.
everyone. Hello, John.
Hey, Victoria, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm kind of excited about your
I'm
question.
thrilled. I'm thrilled.
It's really
This is
nice to
great.
have you because I love your music.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I think we need to work on some more music together. Like, I think I like your music as well.
It's lovely to have you come and ask this question because I know it's one that's going to be interesting to so many people. Probably millions of people are asking this question.
I think so. I think
Okay, so
so.
so
You
what
want
is
me okay. You and I had a conversation, and it's really stuck with me, and I realized when you asked me, I thought this is very synchronicitous that you're even bringing up addiction and in a knowing kind of way where you know that I have a relationship with substances that is not the same as say someone who is physically addicted to heroin like what, but but in a way that you see the conflict that I feel in myself, you know. I think that's why you brought it up, and I felt that like you when you mentioned it, that I just felt seen, you know. I thought there are a lot of people hearing Gabor Mate and people like this talking about a different way of thinking about addiction. Uh, I want to know, is there a way that I can sort of, I'm very hard on myself, you know, about the things that like, there's a way that I think I should be perfect, you know, that I was almost sort of, after this fundamentalist rehab that I was in as a kid, um, for a really long time, it's really a dark place. Like, when I left, we were told that we were addicts, you know? And I mean, when I really think about these things, I think that's a word, you know? And the word dis-ease or disease is just a word, dis-ease, you know, uncomfortable, ill. It doesn't mean that a person is defined by that thing. At the same time, I understand the usefulness of defining it that way for some people. So this is not a question that I guess I mean to sort of present as a judgment kind of thing, you know. But it's like, is there a way that I can conceptualize my relationship with things, like with substances, with the concept of addiction, and with my own use of substances, especially like with pot, I think with mushrooms and LSD as well. But though I think I've more recently learned lessons that would stop that, but that kind of I think I think I feel that I'm kind of growing into a place, and I don't know where it is that I'm growing into, and I would like to know where is my path, you know, and where is the constructive sort of direction for me to move. Well, if that's okay, yeah,
Mhm. Okay, cool. Let's ask it. See what happens.
okay, cool.
Okay, hang on one sec. I'll just turn. Greetings, John, and everyone who is watching and who has this kind of concern, because it is a global concern. So many of you have found perhaps an activity or a behavior or a substance that you feel drawn to repeatedly in
Yes,
order to perhaps soothe or even numb or obliterate, in some
yeah,
cases, other feelings and situations. And some of you judge yourselves, as you have said, very harshly because of this repeated behavior or this repeated need or this repeated, perhaps you might use the word compulsion, where you might
yeah,
feel that there is little control.
yeah,
And of course, the activities and the behaviors are so numerous that we could not even begin to name them all.
right,
They range from working too much to drinking too much
yeah,
to perhaps eating too much, involving oneself in someone else's activities in order to
yeah.
avoid thinking about
To
one's
avoid
own.
self, yeah,
There are so many, but really, the heart of the matter is not the activities, because your lives are made up of activities and behaviors. And of course, some of them will be very pleasurable, and you may feel, oh, I like this, I want more of this.
Right.
And this is not necessarily the issue. For when you truly love something, whether it is a behavior or a substance or another human being or any kind of being, anything at all that you love with purity, so
Oh
that
yeah.
there is no judgment,
Yes.
you,
Okay.
you tend to feel pretty good about it. It
No,
is
you're right.
it's a
This
lovely
is true.
feeling.
This is so true. But that is so epic. Like that is so okay. That is really true. When when we
Because
have a any
perhaps
relationship in love is by default a good thing as long as it is within the confines of love. And that's really true. I think when I think about yes. I mean, wow. Yeah, wow, that makes me think about
shall we perhaps even go so far as to say that when you play the guitar, it is a
yeah,
beautiful experience for you, you love it,
oh,
and you do not condemn yourself for playing the guitar.
no, and I have the same. I was actually thinking that I had the same sort of well no, actually I mean it's the same high, but it's better. It's this sort of flow state thing that happens, and um the more that I can let go, which is ultimately, the thing that I guess some of these like a substance would provide in a sense is either the idea that maybe in a good way it can help you to let go a bit, or maybe in another way it sort of it allows you to forget that you need to let go. But playing guitar or writing, like I can get into this state where something's happening, you know, and I almost like feel like if I try to explain it too much, it'll like it'll ruin the magic, Like
Yeah.
there's something coming through, and I just don't want to get in the way, and I can feel it moving, and the energy is just too addictive to not keep playing the guitar. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's too damn fun, and so it's sort of the same thing. But I see this because it's like I see what you're saying. This is like the the way that I can feel about a substance, say like marijuana, like um there are times when I've had a more positive relationship with it, It was based more in the ways that it was beneficial. And there's time like I think you during the pandemic at different times when it became helpful and then it became harmful, and that I knew where those places were because I have the relationships with the substance. I just sort of didn't allow I don't allow myself I don't allow myself to trust myself, I suppose.
Trust. This is the word that we were hoping you might say.
Okay.
It is about trusting your instinct
Yeah.
and trusting that you are doing something that feels good.
Yeah.
And when you sense that you are doing something that does not feel so good, that you trust yourself enough to perhaps consider, hmm, what else might I do here? And
Yeah.
and also it to involve in that question, the question, how might I feel better in this situation internally? How might I
Mm.
speak to myself in a more compassionate way, more
Yeah.
acceptance, more kindness?
Yes,
This
I mean, this is
dialogue,
true.
inner dialogue, is quite
Well,
often the demon that one is trying to escape from by having.
yeah. Yes, that's so true. Like I was thinking just then, some of the things that I that I would allow to happen to me or to be said to me or to be done. Like if it were my daughter, I would be furious that
Yeah,
someone treated her that way, or that she allowed herself to feel that she didn't have autonomy enough to trust her gut, and to engage anything in the way that she felt that she was righteous enough to do, because she is, and and I think that I think it's absurd that I don't give myself the same. In fact, I think it's not very helpful to her if I'm not representative of that. I can't really tell someone to be that unless I'm fully allowing myself to trust myself more and more. And by default, trusting other people and other things in different ways and questioning the like questioning what is trust and how can I build it? How can I create trust and in a way that allows me to uh, I suppose like well, when we trust other people, don't we lose self in a good way? Don't we lose? Don't we gain a bit more of an understanding of um, oneness? You know,
Oneness.
of
Oneness.
of of, of a universal energy or of
Mm,
just oneness. We find ourselves. We see not just a mirror, but we notice ourselves in other people, and they notice themselves in us, and we have these things that don't. Like Jacques Lacan, I think, said that we wouldn't need language if it weren't for laws, you know? And we're all I guess we're always trying to express something or
yeah.
because we feel that we've lost the ability to just naturally engage. There's those moments when you are truly able to trust another human being and you can look at them and you just go, wow. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of go, okay, wow, we're definitely on the same wavelength here, obviously. And no one has to say a word.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
kind of an incredible thing, but to do that, it takes trusting. And I wonder if I guess this makes me think like I wonder if a lot of the addictions that we're seeing crop up, like things like social media addiction and things like this, like the way that a lot of kids are engaging, if a lot of it doesn't have to do with with just that 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 they don't that we're not sort of trusting that we're not trusting our own relationship with self, not self in that kind of
Mm,
created way, but in that authentic sort of essential self way, like where we're not sort of trusting ourselves enough to say, this is definitively, this is how I feel, and this is what I love, and this is this is my passion, this is the thing, this is joy, this is this is me giving and getting what the universe needs, and what
yeah.
I need, that kind of thing. And um I wonder if there's not a way that we are starting to see ourselves boxed into spaces that keep us kind of from peeking around. Like when you're a kid, like you love to peek around door jams and stuff and see what's on the other side. That's a good thing. It's a good
Yeah.
thing it's a good thing to break some of the rules so that you know why some of them are there and some of them aren't. But ultimately, like these decisions they're all up to us, aren't they? I mean, they're up to us, and they're relative to. This is what I'm hearing is that they're relative to us as the essential people that we are individually. You know, not relative to
Absolutely.
our idea of who we should be.
Absolutely. And we also perhaps feel to add that it is an experiment and it is not,
Yeah.
um, it is never, as you say, perfect because
Hmm.
it is always an adventure and there's always another door to look round and another path, an avenue to
Yeah.
explore. You're exploring in every moment. Every
Yeah.
single moment is an exploration. And
So,
you
yeah.
can make choices in any moment to do
Mm.
something, not do something, or to try something different. Or
That's
it's very,
freedom, right?
you are very free.
That's freedom.
Very
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's the that's the reality of it. That at every moment we are equally close to the thing that we maybe we should not choose for ourselves, and we're equally close to the thing that we should choose for ourselves. It's a matter of us choosing out of. I mean, given that we have the freedom to do that, like that we make the choice that it works best for us, and some choices. Some choices work for some people, and I mean, a guy came up to me in Australia one time on a show and said, um, like, he's really emotional. He just said, "Do you think it's okay that I take methadone?" And I said, "I think that if you're not using heroin, and you feel good about yourself, like anything is better than feeling horrible about yourself. If you're asking me if I think methadone's addictive, I think food is addictive.
Yeah.
So, ultimately, I think the things that I've said to other people are the things that I don't. And that's funny. That is really fun. I don't say them to myself. Do you know
That,
what I mean? Like, I just don't say these things. It's so funny. Like, I mean, even my daughter was like, "Bruh, why are you complaining? Like, I want to do what you do. I want to sit in the bed and smoke pot all day." I was like, "No, you don't." But like in a way, like I would way rather her do that than, you know, like do something that was really damaging. I mean, you're right. In life, we have the ability to change and make new choices at any given moment, like always. And that is seriously freeing and liberating and empowering, just to remember that. Thank you. But do you know what I
and,
mean? Because,
and perhaps to remember also to never judge yourself for
mm,
having made a choice, because you're just experimenting and
well,
you will
and
learn something every time.
my God, my therapist, Barbara, said the exact same thing to me. She said, quit looking at things as something that succeeded or failed. Look at it as an experiment. And when you enter these new things, look at it as an experiment and go in with a hypothesis, you know, and say, I think this is what'll happen. But if you're
Mhm.
wrong, or you're right, you've just learned something from that, and then you move on to another experiment, and each one builds to, just like in with any science, I suppose, a series of experiments, it leads to sort of a refining of the essential self, or more, no, 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 not even a greater connection just with, I think, the underlying beauty of the universe, and that thing, the world that we're in, the sort of the energetic thing that we exist within, that we that we that we tend to move towards these things that sometimes help us to connect to these things, but at other times keep us from being able to do that. You're right though. Judging, it's so true. Like, what is shame, and what does shame do other than, well, yeah, like self-hatred is the same thing as narcissism. Ultimately, it's just another side of the same coin. It's still a focus on the self. So what is shame? A focus on feeling guilt about something that you've already done, that you can learn from, or that you can make a choice about what you experienced. Do you know? Like, what does shame serve other than to keep you, or me, or anyone from, like, keep all of us from moving forwards and becoming who we really are, more so. It just sort of, it's kind of a comfortable thing, I suppose. And it's just silly. It's funny, isn't it? Like, because we think that shame is like such a, like, or guilt, or that they're necessary feelings, that we really ought to feel ashamed of ourselves, and we ought to feel guilty. But no, like, that's just us, like, thinking about ourselves more and not thinking about other people. No, really, not thinking about, like, what could we be in the world. That's so true. Judgment is just like, what are we even judging based on? You know what I mean? Like, who's right? Yeah, normal, isn't it just a setting on a washing machine? You know what I mean, though?
We love your philosophy. We love your perception of it. And we also love your willingness to explore and to make connections. And it's all about connection. It's all about
Yeah,
you connecting to you. And as you connect to you, you influence everyone who sees you, and they can learn from you and feel connected too to
and
themselves.
then, and I think as you become, the more, like you were asking about guitar, the more I feel in that space, the more I feel that I have a concept of self that is innate, that is not, that's fluid, that's not a static thing that I no longer have to think about, that I can exist in, and that kind of thing can only. And I think if we look towards these things, it's all spiritual experiences, in that way. Then we we can look at all of this as being a way of of shedding a lot of the shedding a lot of the the sort of myth that was placed on us. The things that are ingrained in us, that we really have to we have to challenge over time, to sort of shed, and forgive ourselves for latching on to these easy things, because forgiveness and, like it's, I guess that's true with the same with shame. Like, it's just to forgive the self. You have to forgive yourself, before you can forgive. I mean, if you can't be compassionate towards yourself, like what's the Nick Cave line? Uh, and I thought, above all things, I must love myself. Above all things, I must love myself above. And he's talking about being a certain age and feeling he's looking older or something. And you know, in a very kind of direct way, he says at the very beginning of the song, you really do need to, above all things, love yourself. You know,
And love can sometimes be a verb. It may require you to take actions that are loving.
it is a verb, and I mean, love is an action. It's not a thing. You know, like love is not a love. Love is the only thing that in the universe that affects all of us, and all the things that we interact with, but that we know affects us. We emotionally, we just know that it exists. I mean, even chemically, we know it exists. We have no idea why it exists, or where it exists, or how it exists. It's that one thing that unites all of us. Do you know what I mean? Like, the more we're in an active state of love, then, if even the Bible could be right, then God is love. Then we are all God, and we are all moving as one group of people on a path towards something that benefits all of us. The more we judge ourselves, and the more we're gonna judge other people. I suppose the things that we know best in ourselves are what we know in other people, because that's what we think about. So you're right. I'm gonna think on. What I'm gonna do now is just sort of every time I every time I think about. I'm gonna think about what I'm actually experiencing, or what I actually think or feel, as opposed to what I think of myself, or what I think I should think of myself. And I'm gonna kind of, you know, not just apply that to just substances, but just apply that in general, because I think it's really true. You know,
Hmm.
a fuller sense of self. This is really cool. Thanks. Like, this is amazing.
You have a
Yeah.
compass really built in that
Yeah.
points you in the direction of love all the time.
Because it exists innately. Shit, that is true. That's true, though. That really is true. Like, we all have an innate. Okay, yeah, that's really true, though. That there's your that's the spark of the divine within all of us, isn't it? The thing that Tolstoy said, the kingdom of God is within.
Mm.
That that spark that we all share, that put together creates the same similar fire. That pre-Christian kind of Gnostic idea that God is not without, but God is within. You know that we have to share this common sense of. I mean, personally, I think Mary is God. I just think, but like I think that, like, that's just my kind of thing. But like, well, I mean, I'll push. I would not. I'm not. I wouldn't be kind of lead to Mary at all. In fact, I think I would love a new church with just Mary devoted every class. Like, I love Mary, but I think that I think that like in I think that in the way that we consider religion, in the way that we consider the way that we have a relationship with the idea of control, it's sort of there's so many things that are ingrained that we challenge. It's sort of like when we're older teenagers, maybe, or when we're young adults, and when we get to a place where it almost seems like my daughter has really helped me to challenge myself, a lot, like to see things in a way that's more relevant, I think, in a lot of ways, because she's alive at a time when, she's in the middle of that thing. She's the boots on the ground, so, like, I gotta know what, she's thinking. And I I can see in her a much more open relationship to talking about the way that she feels, or how she acts, really getting to the bottom of how she feels, as opposed to
Mm.
finding a way to blame, or finding a way to
Mm.
not consider. And I can see how she can think about, I say, substances or things like that in a way that I wasn't really allowed, that space to do. And it's not because of it's not because, like when I was growing up, some parents would say, like, come over to our house and do this. It's not that kind of thing. It's more that she just has an innately better concept of what she has a more empathetic relationship with things like the idea of addiction or anyone doing anything that that they need to do, regardless of like why they need to do it, that they
Mm-hmm.
need to do because they feel pain. Like she cares about their pain.
Mm,
And I think that we've just gotten to a place where when we start to judge ourselves, we dishonor our own pain. We're causing ourselves pain, and whatever
mm,
we cause ourselves is what we cause the world. You know, I
mm-hmm.
mean, we just disconnect ourselves. And so, no, you're right. With everything, though, this is true, isn't it? That love is really the singular thing that is within us all, and that it is the compass. It's a thing that the more we tune into that, the more we know. We don't really have to think, do we? We
Mm-mm.
just do. Just exist. Yeah,
You've
that's
answered
class.
your question.
Well, did I? I mean, I think that I think there's a way that like when you're doing when you're doing your work, like it's not it's the way that it's the words that get said, like things get sort of triggered. It's like a synchronicitous kind of thing where I go, my God, that's exactly what it's relative to something that someone said yesterday. It's relative to this thing that, you know, like there's something saying, pay attention. Do
Mm,
you know what I mean? Pay attention to what's going on here.
mm-hmm.
That's doing it in a way that's beyond language. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, where you just kind of go, okay, this is what I'm hearing here. I've heard this before, but the way I'm hearing it is in a way that kind of like the way that only my grandmother could tell me stuff. You know, like with this kind of uh, with empathy and without judgment, and so it allows for that. But it's also just like there's a it's amazing. Like, do you experience that? Like that there's that the language itself is just sort of lost. Like you don't have to really concern yourself with that.
It's a frequency.
That's incredible.
Mm,
That's incredible because the words that get chosen are the ones that come out. Those words are ones that resonate with me,
mm-hmm.
and I'd be really curious because I mean I've watched you did this, and I've seen it's resonated with me then as well. So I'd be curious to know how many people like how this resonates with other people. Because I think you're right that so so many of us around. I mean, I think we all wake up in the morning and are addicted to the idea of doing something. So ultimately we all struggle with this to some degree, and I would be curious to kind of know how many other people how many other people know that they judge themselves in too harsh a way as
Mm,
well.
mm. That'll be interesting.
I think so too.
Thank you so much for asking
Oh, thank
questions.
you. Oh,
Thank
thanks for letting me.
you. Namaste.
Namaste.